Regardless if you have kids or not, if you have a family or not, it's a human life. It's people who live in the city that we're here to protect, and and we just try to show up and do all we can.
The first fatalities of Hurricane Florence have been confirmed after a dramatic rescue attempt in Wilmington. A woman and her 8-month-old child died after a tree fell onto their house. We thank you for joining us tonight at 5. I'm Colleen Marshall.
I'm Mark Taylor. Now, Florence was just downgraded to a tropical storm, but it is still strong, still barreling down on the coast of North and South Carolina. Several inches of rain could lead to more flooding.
And tonight, we are mobilizing Ford's Army to help the Red Cross bring relief to the Carolinas. We're partnering with the Red Cross for a special Call 4.
Volunteers will be answering phones in our Call 4 center until 6:30 tonight. Just call the number on your screen, 821-4444, to make a donation. Meanwhile, tonight, we're getting a first look at the damage in Florence's wake. Heavy rain punishing wind and rising waters.
Our garage door didn't make it.
Hurricane Florence has made landfall, and now all residents can do is ride out the storm until it's over.
Those in the storm's path, please stay sheltered in place. Do not go out in this storm.
The slow nature of Florence will lead to heavy flooding throughout the area. In the city of New Bern, hundreds of residents have called for help, with officials dispatching swift boats to stranded citizens.
Our National Guards, our Department of Defense, we have high water vehicles and teams that are ready to go.
The focus now for local and federal officials is to conduct rescue operations as safely as possible. Conditions in some areas must improve before teams can come in.
We're focused really on safety and security and rescue missions. We have over, I think it's close to 1,300 search and rescue people and assets on the ground.
More than 500,000 people in the area are already without power and could be in the dark for days, if not weeks, to come.
That number is rising even as we speak. Utility crews from all over the country are standing by to restore power when it's safe for them to be out.
Overall impact of the storm will only grow as it slowly makes its way further into the Carolinas.
24 to 36 hours remain of a significant threat from heavy rain, heavy surge, not just in North Carolina, but obviously down as we move into South Carolina.
And this storm, although it's downgraded, Dave, still very strong here. Here's an update on the latest forecast.
Yeah, you might be wondering why I'm holding a milk crate. I wanted to show you guys, this is about a cubic foot right here, the size of a milk crate, the inside of it. If you have this much water that is on the ground, that's about 62 pounds worth of water. So imagine if you start getting that stacked up and it's moving, 62 pounds moving at you pretty fast, that's going to knock you right down on the ground pretty quickly. And that's one of the things with storm surge and also this very heavy rainfall that folks are going to be dealing with. Live Viper radar over the past hour showing this storm slowly moving inland this evening, and it's still a very powerful storm. Now a tropical storm. It has winds at 70 miles per hour. Here's the problem, though. It's still bringing in a lot of that surge. It's only moving to the west at 3. So if you take a real slow mosey around, that's about every 20 minutes to make up a mile. That's 3 miles per hour. So a very slow walk is 3 miles an hour. And that's going to be the path over the next couple of days, just off towards the west through parts of southern North Carolina and South Carolina, as a tropical storm dumping massive amounts of rainfall. And then by the end of the weekend, it will start to make a curve. And as it moves northward, it could impact our weather locally. We'll talk more about when to expect it here and how much rain we can see coming up in about 14 minutes.
The eye of Hurricane Florence came on shore at 7:15 this morning, directly over Wrightsville Beach.
The storm was only a Category 1, but still creating significant damage all along the Carolina coastline.
Jeff Patterson is in Wilmington tonight covering the storm and its impact. Jeff, what can you tell us at this hour?
Yeah, good evening, Mark and Colleen. Unfortunately, Hurricane Florence now officially a killer storm, as the Wilmington Police Department confirming that one woman and her infant child were killed last night when a tree fell on their home. Another man in a nearby community died when he turned on a generator. But this is the scene we're seeing replayed on street after street in Wilmington. A downed tree and a downed power line. Much of this area is without electricity.
We heard so much about the evacuations. Are they happy with the number of people who left town and got out of the storm's path?
Well, I can tell you that a lot of people did stay. They chose to for whatever personal reasons that they have. Of course, hundreds of thousands of people evacuated this area, but I've covered many of these hurricanes, and there's always going to be somebody who stays behind and tries to ride it out. Now, it was only a Category 1 hurricane, and some people think well, I can do a Category 1. That's not a big deal. But if you look at these power lines as we have driving through this area, we saw this all over the place in downtown Wilmington. We saw gas station roofs that had been ripped off, the roofs of homes in this neighborhood that have been torn off. And this is a historic neighborhood that I'm standing in. Many of the buildings that you see around me are more than 100 years old. So they boarded up. But again, people stayed in this neighborhood. And if you saw the size of some of the trees that we have seen today, photographer Corey Lepak and I have been driving around some very, very large old trees falling down, and that's a very big hazard, especially for people like that man who was just driving by. You see a down power line, you might not see it until the last second, and so it can become a huge hazard.
All right, Jeff Patterson, thank you for that report live from Wilmington, North Carolina. Still a Category 1 storm, but still very powerful, and we're still going to see more in the aftermath. Jeff, thanks.
And the American Red Cross is preparing tonight to help thousands of people. Shelters are set up throughout the East Coast. Some volunteers from Central Ohio are already there. NBC4's Tyler Carter has been talking to one of them today, traveling into the eye of the hurricane.
Since Hurricane Florence hit, American Red Cross volunteers across Central Ohio have been doing everything they can to help, even if that means driving to the storm to assist in shelters. Hurricane Florence is inching along after making landfall in North Carolina and will soon hunker down over the Palmetto State, snapping power lines and taking out anything in its path. Some Ohio Buckeye American Red Cross volunteers are headed right towards it.
We're in it for the long haul.
Driving from Virginia, Kitty Stevens, a part of the American Red Cross Rapid Response Team, will be serving as a mental health counselor deployed to the affected Carolina areas. She says there is no telling what part of the Carolinas she will end up settling in.
Basically, it's meeting their needs right now, making sure they have shelter and food, and that they're safe.
In fact, this is not Stevens' first time assisting with hurricane victims and seeing the damage it can cause on an entire state.
And it looks just like what Katrina looked like. So I'm thinking it's going to be very similar to that. They're still saying that even though the category has gone down, the winds and the water are what the main concern is, and the damage that can be done with that.
Depending on the destruction Florence leaves behind, Red Cross volunteers could be down in the southeast coast for months.
We're in it for the long haul. We're not going to stop providing the help and the support that the community needs.
Right now, Stevens says she plans to be in the Carolinas for 2 weeks, but says storms like this can be unpredictable, changing her plans. Local for you in Columbus, Tyler Carter, NBC4.
Tyler, thank you. Volunteers from the Red Cross are in our Call For Center right now taking donations over the phone. The number to call, 821-4444. Ford's Army can make a difference at our Day of Giving next Tuesday here at our studio. Volunteers will be filling up 5-gallon buckets with supplies going straight to the Carolinas. We have all the items needed items right now on our website, NBC4i.com/dayofgiving.